Alright, so I thought I'd do a quick video on the new config backups branch since there are quite a few changes and they cover a lot of cases. So I think we'll start out by just having a look at the current configs folder. We've got a default config, Sabertooth config, and the virtual config, which we have enabled currently. I'll just go into the config editor and I will change the values of the default control speeds from 3 to, let's say, 5 and 3, and we'll see that's how it should appear. I'm just going to save that and go back to our SSH console, and we'll see now that we have the current virtual config and also a backup, which is the previous config that we had before we saved. So if I have a look at the virtual config, we've got 5 and 3, which is what we'd expect, and then the backup should be 3 and 3. And that is correct. So we can save up to 6 backups. So I'll just save a few more. And it's on a rolling backup scheme. So what that means is that when I save virtual.json, it'll create a backup at virtual.json.backup.0. And all of these are incremented, and the 5th backup, or rather the 6th backup, is deleted. I should give an example of that. Let's say we'll set this to 1 and 1, save that. 1 and 2, save that. 1 and 3, save that. 1 and 4, save that. 1 and 5, save that. 1 and 6, save that. And 1 and 7. So if we come back to our SSH console, the most recent change that we made was 1 and 8, I believe. No, 1 and 7. So we'll look at the current config, and it should be 1 and 7. That's correct. And the previous version, which is backup 0, should have 1 and 6. And that'll go on to 1 and 5, 1 and 4, whoops, 1 and 4, 1 and 3, 1 and 2, and 1 and 1. And now what I'll do is I'll edit the current config to break it, just add a bit of junk in there so the robot doesn't know what to do. And then what we can do is restart and show that after failing, it recovers. So what's happened there is if we take a look at the logs, we'll see that there was a config error and that a backup has been restored. So we'll just have a quick look at the configs directory. We'll see that we no longer have 5 backups, we have 4. That's because 0 was restored to virtual.json, and then all of these were decremented by 1. We also saw here that it gave us a copy, a last config.json, which we can see it's in the same directory. So if we wanted to inspect our file to see what went wrong, we can go, oh yeah, that's what was wrong, and we can fix that if we want to. But we'd have to obviously be in sudo, and we could fix our config, and then we can say move it back. So now what I'll do, I'll just save another config to bring our number back up to 5. Yeah, I've got 6 backups there, and what we can do is delete the intermediary backups. So we've only got the virtual.json config and then backup number 5. So if we edit the virtual.json config and we add some junk to make it invalid, and then once again restart the service, we'll see that it also recovers. And if we have a look here, we can see that it took the 5th backup and replaced the broken config. So you might want to know what happens if there are no backups. So let's have a look at that. Edit the file again, add some more junk. So we'll break this file and restart again. So you'll see that it does recover, and the reason is it restores a minimal config, which is kept away from the user, so the user can't edit the minimal config. And this config is a virtual connection, so there's not much there that can go wrong. It's basically using no hardware, so you should always be able to boot into safe mode, and then you can continue editing your config to get your robot working again.